welcome to our show, Health and Wellness, Facts versus Myths. I'm Gargi Rawat. Now, diabetes is all about gaining control and taking care. If you have diabetes, it becomes more important to take care of your health and to gain control over those fluctuating levels of blood sugar. It's important for blood sugar levels to stay in a healthy range, and if glucose levels get too low, we can lose the ability to think and function normally. If they get too high and stay high, it can cause damage or complications to the body over the course of many years. Testing your blood sugar level is one of the best ways to understand your diabetes and how different foods, medications, and activities affect your diabetes. So keeping track of your blood glucose can help you and your doctor make a plan to manage this condition. Let's understand glucose monitoring in a better way. We have expert panel here with us who will answer your questions regarding the diabetes monitoring. We're joined by Dr. B. Ravi Kumar, consultant endocrinologist and diabetologist, Madhava Super Speciality Hospital, Nizamabad, and Dr. Sanjay Kumar Singh, Chairman and Managing Director, Sharda Narayan Hospital. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the program to answer all our questions. And Dr. Ravi Kumar, I'd like to start with you. If a person is recently diagnosed with diabetes, what numbers should he or she be aiming for when it comes to blood sugar numbers?
We normally classify sugars in two ways. We have a fasting blood sugars that's done 10 hours post-night without any meals, and then you've got your post-lunch sugars, that's your after meal. So normally for a fasting blood sugars, we would aim for something between 100 to 125. As you rightly said, you do not want your sugars to plummet down to less than 70, because if your sugars go less than that, then your ability to think is going to hamper. And if you're looking at post-lunch blood sugars, you want a post-lunch sugars between 140 and 180. This is the general rule of thumb for the entire population. But based on all your risk factors, your complications, your comorbidities, your doctors can decide the ranges can go slightly down or high. Because as you said, keeping the sugars nicely in range is the key. Normally when the sugars go over the limit for a very prolonged time, they can land up into complications, as we said. And if the sugars go very low, less than 70, we always give less than 70 is danger and more than 200 for general population to think what's happening. So in short, a fasting sugars between 100 to 125 is good, and a post-lunch sugars between 140 and 180 is an acceptable range. But always speak to the clinician who's looking after you, because these numbers can change based on how your other medical conditions.
All right. Now, Dr. Singh, how often should people with diabetes test their blood glucose levels? And we also know there are different types of diabetes. So is it different then for those with type 1 and type 2 diabetes?
The blood glucose tests are same for the type 1 and type 2 diabetes. But there are three types of tests. First is the fasting blood sugar, which we are doing the overnight fast or the 8 hours fasting. And other is the postprandial, which is after breakfast. Either we are giving the 75 gram of glucose. Other test is the HbA1c level, which should be less than 7% of the diabetic person, and that is giving the 3 months control of your blood sugar level. So all three tests are important for the type 1 and type 2, both type of diabetes. But in the type 1 diabetes, we are doing the more frequent testing for to check the blood sugar level, because the patients are mostly insulin dependent, and we are giving the insulin. But in type 2 diabetes, that will depend on the person to person. If somebody's glucose blood sugar level is controlled, then we are not doing the frequent testing. But in some patient, if patient is having the symptoms like the sweating, palpitation, anxiety, and any abnormal behavior of the patient, then we are checking the blood sugar level. If the blood sugar level is less than, if patient is in hypoglycemia, then we are giving some glucose biscuit, and we are giving some glucose in IV also to increase the blood sugar level. But all the three tests are important. HbA1c and fasting blood sugar, PP, and type 1 and type 2 diabetes. In both diabetes, the tests are the same. But the criteria for doing how frequently we will do the testing and in which patient, that will depend on the patient to patient.
All right. So, Doctor, you mentioned the HbA1c test. So, Dr. Ravi, if you could explain to us what is this HbA1c test? Also, Dr. Ravi, why is it necessary to do this HbA1c test when PF and PPG blood tests are available? And what's the frequency of the tests to be taken? Also, who needs to take this test?
It's a brilliant question that needs to be communicated loudly, actually. So, HbA1c in medical terminology is called a glycosylated hemoglobin. So, though you're checking fasting and post-lunch sugar, so in general terms, you could see you have your monthly income and annual income. And when you file up your annual income, you really know what's happening to your daily income. So, HbA1c is an average of your blood sugars for 3 months. So why are we using this sort of technology to assess your diabetes? Is because a higher HbA1c, so something more than 7, is always worrying for the doctors because these are the patients that can land up into complications. So that's the reason we do. And how frequently we do HbA1cs? Normally it's advisable to do every 3 monthly. But again, if your sugars are well controlled, not necessarily you need to do 3 monthly. You could do 6 monthly or in your annual checkup. So based on at least you don't need to do it every monthly because it's an average of 3 months. So it's a glycosylated hemoglobin. You would aim for HbA1c of 7%. Fasting and post-lunch sugars is a variable number because that always goes with your daily lifestyle, your stress, your meals, and your exercise. Whereas we take an average of the 120 days, which then converted into HbA1c, which gives an idea to the clinicians that how well the control is and if the patient is in trouble or can we relieve him of the trouble. So that is why we say you need to have your HbA1c checked apart from your fasting and postprandial blood sugar.
All right, Dr. Sanjay, is self-glucose monitoring through glucometers safe and accurate option? Is it necessary for people with type 2 diabetes also daily monitoring of blood glucose?
It is very safe because the self blood glucose monitoring is a very safe and very cheaper also for the patient. If patient is having the any time in night also, if patient is having a low blood sugar, he can check the blood sugar himself with the finger prick. We can check your yourself. You doesn't require to go to the hospital or doctor consultation, and you can take the, if your blood glucose level is low, then you can take any biscuits and all the things. So very safe glucose, safe blood glucose monitoring, very safe, and it is also accurate also, and 50 to 20% are the accurate to the other venous blood sugar monitoring. And in emergency, if any blood patient having the high blood sugar level, then we can check, we can give the some medication immediately without doing any patient if the blood sugar is level low, then we can give the medication with small biscuits and other medication also. And it is a very safe and very cheaper also. Patient doesn't require to go to the hospitals and doctor consultation, and it is very important. We are advising to the patient if you are having the normal, you are taking the diabetes medicine, are you taking the insulin, then you have to keep your glucose monitoring, write the glucose, what are the level, and you can talk to the, when you are coming to the clinic, you can talk to your doctor saying this is the my glucose reading, and we can advise the medication. So this is a very good monitoring, and we can know the what is the average level of blood sugar level, and we can advise the medication, we can reduce the dose, we can increase the insulin level. This is very important things and a very good thing, but doesn't require to daily blood glucose monitoring for the every patient. If patient is your blood sugar is diet is controlled, blood sugar level is controlled, then we can add the after 15 days, after 10 days, after 1 month, if your reading is correct, then you can do the not frequently, weekly and fortnightly you can do your blood sugar monitoring. So this is very good things, and this is provided this is very when this discovery came, patient are doing self monitoring, and not patient are very controlling your blood sugar very nicely with this self blood glucose monitoring.
All right, so this has really helped patients with diabetes, especially in the monitoring at home. So let's just talk a bit more about this self-testing. And Dr. Ravi Kumar, what are the common causes for not getting the correct readings in these blood glucose monitors? What is the right way to use the monitors, and what precautions one must take to get the correct reading?
That's another fantastic question that the audience have to know. It's almost like buying a car, but you really don't know how to start it or take it. So what you have to do is self-monitoring blood sugars is there are 3-4 rules that needs to be followed. The first thing is make sure you take a correct and a good quality glucose meter. Don't buy anything that's available in the market. Speak to the local pharmacist or your clinicians to see what's a good quality SMBG that's available. So that's your glucose monitor. Second, when you're trying to check your blood sugars, be in a calm environment so that no one disturbs you when you're checking your blood sugars too. Number 3, wash your hands with soap, because when there's a sugar, milk, tea or that's attached to the finger, your sugars can be overread. So it's important you wash your hands. Third, you need to make sure that the glucose strips that you're using should match to the meter that you bought, because if you're buying a glucose meter, you need to put a strip into it. If it's a B glucose meter, you need to have a B glucose. Rule of 4 is make sure that the strips are not expired, have not been exposed to the air, because that can change the chemical in the glucose strip, and that can underestimate or overestimate your sugar readings. Number 5, most of the sugar readings does have memory in it, but obviously that if you want to note down an odd reading of your sugar, you can note down in the diary, so that when you go and see your doctor, you can understand why these sugars have gone very high. So it's very, very important that be in a calm environment, wash your hands, make sure that the battery is full when you're checking your glucose meter, you use the strips which are not expired, use the correct meter, A meter to A strip. Don't jumble around just because you've got some meters available. So that and any meter you check your blood sugars will overestimate your sugar reading. So you always have to speak to the clinicians to see what is the best justifiable blood sugar reading.
All right, now let's talk about comorbidities. Dr. Sanjay Singh, with diabetes, hypertension is the commonest comorbidity. Hypertension control is equally important than with glucose control. Yes. So does the home BP monitoring improve hypertension control, and what is the right way to do that?
Definitely, very good question, and so many patients are also asking, sir, blood pressure, if we are monitoring in the home, that is a good, correct. This is the best and accurate, correct measurement when you are doing. But we have advised the patient what are the correct way to monitor your blood pressure. The patient should be in the relaxed mode. This hand will be in the when we are sitting in the hand. They are not coming with any stressful condition, and that if before measuring the blood pressure, they should be relaxed. 10 to 20 minutes, they should be relaxed on the sitting position. And not doing after the meal, and not doing after attending any phone call. So the hand should be in the heart level should be there. Monitoring your BP instrument should be the same, and the same person with the same time you should monitoring your home blood pressure measurement, and that you should write on in your diary. Then you should consult your physician, your cardiologist. This is my home blood pressure monitoring, and this is also very important. Some patients are coming our clinic and they are showing that, sir, in home we are having the relaxed normal blood pressure, but when we are coming in your clinic, that my blood pressure is rising, some anxiety with some problem, my blood pressure increased. So this is home blood pressure monitoring. Avoid all the complications, and if patient is doing in the proper manner with the proper device, with the proper sitting posture, with the same heart level, that should be very helpful and very good for the patient, and that can lead to maintain the comorbid condition, and we can treat better control of the blood pressure and diabetes also in the comorbid condition.
All right, so very important points there on monitoring, your blood pressure at home and also your glucose. Time for us to slip into a short break. We'll come back with more. You're watching Health and Wellness, and we're talking about managing diabetes at home. Welcome back. You're watching Health and Wellness, Myths versus Facts, and we're talking about monitoring of glucose at home and managing your diabetes. Let's go across to the doctors. And Dr. Ravi Kumar, what is continuous glucose monitoring system, and what are the benefits of it? For whom is this system actually beneficial? And most importantly, if you could tell us, is it affordable for the common man?
Okay, so What we've been talking so far is called an SMPG, that's your self-monitoring blood glucose. It's slightly different. What is called the CGM, which you've told, it's called a continuous glucose monitoring. Now, what continuous glucose monitoring does is it monitors your blood sugars 24 hours a day, so we could see what the problem is. So in so far where I've been trained in London and in India, CGMs, that's your continuous glucose monitoring, have been mostly used in type 1 diabetic patients. But we are starting to use more of these CGMs in type 2 diabetic patients. And the reason is sometimes self-monitoring blood glucose can only check 4 to 6 times sugars. But sometimes you don't get the correct answer that is required. CGM is basically, you attach it to your skin, you get the graphs, what's happening into your 24 hours, and you can see what really is happening. That's the future of diabetes. Because sometimes if you check your sugars in the morning, fasting and post-lunch blood sugars, they could be normal. But when you look at your HbA1c, that is very high. So we have some data that's missing, and to confirm what it is, then we attach a CGM to see if the sugars are going very high when the patient is asleep, or if the sugar is dropping when they're asleep. So it gives us a better picture. And it's usually a graphical presentation, which we attach to the computer, and the doctors can analyze the data, discuss with the patient, and then see what's happening. Now, CGMs, as I said, is mostly used in type 1 diabetic patients because they are continuously injecting insulin, and we need to guide them the right insulin and dose so that they don't hamper their control. But if you have patients who have got unexplained hypoglycemia means low sugars overnight, and the doctors are not able to pick up, then we tend to use CGMs. In the later part of your question, you asked, is it a costly affair? Well, CGMs are a bit costly. It could cost between 3,000 to 5,000 in Indian rupee. But if you look at what the problem is, then if you look at the cost, benefit versus risk, then obviously we don't attach everybody. So if you've recently been diagnosed with diabetes, we don't normally do CGMs because that's not required for type 2 diabetic patients. But if you're landing up into complications in spite of you doing your best, then we need guidelines as to say that what's happening in your body, and that's where CGMs are very useful. And we all are heading towards the right way in the future. But once the cost comes up, then it'll start to trickle in towns and villages, the CGMs. But now it's been very oftenly used in metros. Where I practice in towns, we are sparsely using these technology. But that's the future, I would say, of diabetes.
All right. Now, Dr. Sanjay Singh, let's talk about heart health, because that's something that's really come into focus, especially recently when you've had, sudden deaths taking place in relatively younger people. So who should have heart screening? How can heart screening help? And which tests are performed to screen the heart?
A very important things, and so many persons and patients are also asking this case, sir, what is the correct time when we should go for the testing? Any person with diabetes or above 40 years of age should get for a heart checkup every year. And every year you should go for the heart checkup. Or diabetes persons are more than 40 years age. And regular checkup for your body weight, your blood pressure, that should be done for the regularly. Or any persons are having any cardiac, some abnormality or some difficulty, and 35 age of 35 above, you can begin the cardiovascular screening of the any person. And after the 40 years, regular health checkups such as the lipid profiles, your ECG, your echocardiogram is very important things. And if anybody is finding any abnormality in the ECG or echocardiography and any symptoms are just like a chest pain radiating to the hand and back, then we should advise for the angiography for the complete examination. What are the problem a patient is having. And cholesterol lipid profile is very important. If a patient is having diabetes or patient is more than 40 years and derange the LDL and triglyceride, your cholesterol level is high, then we should advise the medication. We should advise the lifestyle modification. Lifestyle modification is very important thing. And in the screening, when we are doing the screening of any patient, diabetes patient, younger patient, any person is having the blood pressure, sugar level is more, patient is obese, then we have advised to lose the weight. Weight reduction is very important things to control the diabetes and blood pressure and cardiac disease also. So obesity is also coming in the disease category. Then any person is if having the more than body mass index and increase weight is much more than normal, then he should walking should be start. He should play game, restrict your diet, consult your dietitian to what diet you should take, what are your working habit, and according to your working habit you should take your regular meal. That is very important thing, because without taking medication, without doing all this medication, if you want to not doesn't want to take a medication, then you should go for the lifestyle modification, and this is very important. But if any person is having the diabetes, and diabetes is very prone to the cardiac disease, then he should go for the ECG, echo, very important test, and if any finding is there, then angiography is must. But if any we are advising to the persons, then you should take your diet control, and walking exercise is very important thing.
All right, lifestyle modification perhaps is one of the best ways to, help manage all these diseases. Very important there, Doctor. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the program and, answering all our questions on managing diabetes and measuring your glucose at home. But that's all the time we have. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.